So 10 years and 328 episodes later, the Fairy Tail anime has finally come to an end. It's reached its final episode, and honestly, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? I can't believe, first of all, that we even had a full adaptation, and I can't believe we actually reached the end. It's freaking crazy. Let's talk about it.
Whether Facebook, Twitter, or the Truth, make sure to steer clear, cause I'm coming through like...
Yeah, people, it's bananas. 328 episodes later, and Fairy Tail just reached its final episode, 328. I'm shocked, to be honest with you, because there was so many times where I was wondering, like, is the Fairy Tail anime even going to get a complete adaptation? You know, it got kind of, not necessarily canceled, but basically put on pause a couple different times. You know, I think it was at least 2 or 3 times that the Fairy Tail anime stopped for a bit. It caught up with the manga, and then to our surprise and for some people's delight, Fairy Tail, even after the manga ended, came back to adapt the entirety of the remainder of the manga with the Alvarez Empire and all the crazy insanity that went on in the final war of Fairy Tail against Zeref and Acnologia. Now it's crazy because, you know, when I first started really getting heavy into anime, it was like 2010. It was just shortly before I really started on my YouTube channel, where I might have already started dabbling and making videos here or there, but I remember the talk of the season. As a matter of fact, yeah, it was summer of 2010, so I already had been doing videos at that point. There was High School of the Dead. That was a real big one, but I remember also a lot of people kept talking about Fairy Tail, this new shonen anime, and at the time I was just like excited to check out anything, but it also shows you where the anime community's head was at, what they were thinking with. And at the time I was like, I'm gonna check out High School of the Dead. There's only 12 episodes. Fairy Tail, I want to say there was like 20 something episodes, and they weren't sure if it was going to continue or not, but I think it was confirmed at that point for 50. So I checked out High School of the Dead, and yeah, I was a changed man. No, but eventually, I want to say it was about a year later, around the time when the manga reached the 7-year quote-unquote time skip. It was approaching at that point, and I remember everybody was talking about it, and I was like, you know, I want to catch up. So I started going back and forth between the anime and the manga. In fact, I want to say the first time I actually checked out the Fairy Tail anime was when it was released on Blu-ray over here. I had checked it out dubbed, and I remember at the time I was like through the roof excited because, you know, I was still a beginner, I guess you could say. At that point, I had watched, you know, of course, everything back in the day from Dragon Ball Z to Yu Yu Hakusho and stuff, but for me, it was just so freaking exciting, all these anime coming out and all this new stuff. And I remember I was going through the roof saying like, yo, this is gonna be the next Naruto, next One Piece, next Bleach. Boy, I caught a lot of heat for that one, especially what it later turned into, because nobody could deny that the first 12 or so episodes of Fairy Tail, they were enjoyable. It was a cool setup and everything, and in the beginning, you never knew what was really going to become of the series. But for better or worse, with Fairy Tail, I definitely say that at the very least, you cannot deny that the start is so freaking entertaining. And I've always said when it came to Fairy Tail that whether it was anime or manga, I would always pick the anime. First of all, the music alone, the same composer that did the music for Naruto Shippuden did the music for Fairy Tail and never missed a beat. I mean, there were so many openings, endings, and throughout this video, anytime you want to drop a comment, I would love to hear your favorite moments or your favorite openings and endings, or things that maybe you felt was a missed opportunity, because there's so much to say about this series. I mean, alone openings, the very first opening, I'm not gonna lie, to this day is probably still my favorite. It was something about when I first heard that Fairy, where you going, like, it caught me. As a matter of fact, I had actually heard the opening before I even got into Fairy Tail. It was like in somebody's pickups video, they were like unboxing anime and they had the song in the background. I was like, ooh, that sounds kind of slick. And then it was around the time where Acnologia, the Tenrojima arc, that I caught up with the anime and the manga. Around that time, I think the manga had just started, the tournament arc. I just remember having a blast with it, and I remember even when I caught up, it was hard for me to see the flaws in Fairy Tail at the beginning, because I remember I was just like, so, you know, when you marathon something, especially when you're a little bit more naive still. At that point, I wasn't really like the shonen guru that I kind of ultimately became, so I was still kind of really just fascinated by the characters and fascinated by, you know, just all of the action that was going on and everything. So I got a lot of fond memories of Fairy Tail. Like, yeah, ultimately there was a lot of problems as a narrative. And once I started becoming more of a reviewer and coming more into my own with Fairy Tail, that's when I really started seeing the flaws. And, you know, it was mainly with the battles. Like, I could honestly say Fairy Tail, the biggest problem, and the fact that it's an action series, it doesn't help it, has been the fights with the series, because it was always just the fights. Like, it would be incredible build up. The plot twists would be freaking insane. There were so many different freaking twists, like when we had the whole Eclipse arc. I remember that one was a big one. Like, whoa, Sting came back, and it was just kind of like, usually the battles, and I ain't gonna lie, Sting's motive to this day, I'm still like, really, bro, over a cat? But even with this last season, the final season, I think it was called the final season of Fairy Tail final series, something like that, it did have its, you know, missed opportunities. It did have its problematic aspects from the manga. I still think till the very end, Mashima should have killed off Makarov. That's one of the things that I felt as though would have been a very impactful moment for it. It was a missed opportunity in Tenro with Acnologia, and they, you know, teased this so many times and it never happened. So I would definitely say that the problems with Fairy Tail through and through, it stuck to it. You know what I'm saying? It was mainly promoting just friendship and things like that. But it was just something about the cast, and that's kind of why I want to come into this one. Despite, you know, all the problems I've had with Fairy Tail, I just had so much fun with the series at the same time, because it was one of those anime where you know what it is, so you could kind of turn your brain off to a certain degree and have that enjoyable aspect of it. But the anime in particular, and that's why I always say anime over manga, it was just something different about it that you don't get from the manga. You know, the colors, the action, the voices, and all that. And just on top of it all, it was just like a feeling you would get with the Fairy Tail anime. And honestly, seeing that it's really over, it's still like kind of shocking to me, because again, I didn't even expect for it to come back. When I heard that they were doing a final arc and animating the final you know, stuff of the manga, that kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, really? Like, I did not expect that at all, because Fairy Tail, you know what I'm saying, it was over for quite some time. The manga had ended and there was no anime in sight, and usually they don't go back and adapt manga into anime after it's been over for some time, because, you know, they like to promote the books and all that. But they actually did, and you know, going through the entirety of the final season of Fairy Tail, which it was quite lengthy. I don't remember exactly how many episodes, but it felt like it was about a year's worth of episodes that we got. I think that they did what they could. They did it justice. I liked that they added some type of backstory to Acnologia, and it wasn't just like, because the manga kind of left it like, hey, he's the biggest villain and we still knew next to nothing about him. So getting the little backstory of, you know, the trials and tribulations he went through and how he got his name from a dragon, it was kind of similar to Irene. It kind of took from her as well, how she took her dragon's name. Acnologia basically was like, okay, this guy that took everything from me, this dragon, I'm going to use his name. And so it was a cool backstory for Acnologia. Nothing groundbreaking. I thought that they could have handled it a little bit better, but nevertheless, I was glad at the very least they tried. You know what I'm saying? Mashima looked into things and was like, well, you know, I can't really change battles and stuff like that, because I doubt they would allow it, but I can go back and add some story for a character that's supposed to be the grandioso of it all. So getting that for Acnologia was dope. I'd say, honestly, from the finale of the Fairy Tail anime, one of the things that really held it together for me, and I thought was a nice touch. Granted, I've never been a fan of her being that age looking, you know, Mavis, but I felt as though Mavis and Zeref's story was probably the best thing of the entirety of it, especially the ending when, you know, Zeref was dying or whatever. The anime nailed that. Honestly, I was there like, not in tears, but I was almost, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was just the way they handled it, because it was a love-hate relationship. It was a guy that was cursed with something so bad. He lost so much, and at the end of the day, like, no matter, you know, in a real world scenario, when couples go through things, sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, you still love that person. So even despite the awful things that, you know, Zeref did, Zeref was, you know, a monster, walking nightmare, Mavis in the end still felt them. And the fact that they got that happy ending, I loved it in the manga and I loved it more in the anime, when we get to see the reincarnation of Mavis, seemingly reincarnation or descendants of some sort of Mavis and Zeref. I loved it. I was so happy that throughout everything, these two tragic characters that, if anything, the most deserved to have a happy ending, got it. I mean, granted, you could say, yeah, Zeref, he paid the ultimate price. He died, right? But he was basically a tragic person that never could see any type of happiness, because the second he felt any type of love, everything around him would die. So I was really glad that he got some type of, in the end, even though it wasn't necessarily him, but, you know, his reincarnation or whatever, got to see the life that he never could. And I think to a certain degree, a lot of his actions was basically not him trying to seek redemption per se, but more so him punishing himself and at the same time trying to undo everything. If you really think about it, he wanted to redo the entire story essentially and go back and stop it from him ever being cursed with, you know, the curse that was put upon him. So I felt as though the anime handled that nicely, and it was just like when the first opening in the final episode, when it in the party, when the first opening came on, I was there like, oh man, it's really freaking over. And they also hammered out a lot of details of like Kanna's relationship with her father, Gildarts, you know, that was dope. I mean, the fights, there was, you know, some pretty cool fights. I also thought it was touching, and again, this is why I think that those characters, in particular Mavis and Zeref, were some of the best things about this, minus the fight with Zeref and Natsu. That was, ooh, it's still in the anime, ooh. But even their son, you know, the way we were tricked into thinking that the other dude, that you know, his magic was he could make you feel basically ultimate pleasure, was actually not Zeref's real son, and his real son, which it made sense, his real son would be old as shit, especially if that was Mavis' son. The way it ended, yeah, it was lackluster, his battle, like he was basically about to wipe out Kanna and Gildarts and all of this stuff, but the fact that it was that he wanted love from his mother the entire time was really deep, honestly. Like, it was emotionally impactful in terms of those aspects. Like Fairy Tail, what it did handle great, it usually rose to the occasion in a very well manner, but in terms of the lows, yeah, of course you can't ignore that. But I'm just really sad to see it go, honestly. I'm never, no matter how critical I can be of a series, especially one that I've been with for how many years now? I think 2011 is when I started on Fairy Tail, so, you know, many years of me talking about the series, to see the anime, because already the manga had ended a couple of years ago, but now to see the anime, the version of the story that I prefer, come to an end, it's sad, honestly. Like Acnologia biting the dust and just the way it ended, honestly. I was glad, like, Fairy Tail decided, and I think Mashima very early on decided that he wanted to, no matter what, bring positive energy and positive vibes, and sometimes it was at the detriment of the story, detriment of the characters, but at the very end, it was really dope that, you know, you can leave with a good feeling. I didn't leave, like, even after the Mavis and Zeref stuff, I didn't leave the series feeling depressed per se. Like, seeing everybody, I think it would have been dope to see Natsu and Lucy pair off, but to see, you know, Gajeel and Levi, Gray kind of sort of admitting his feelings to Juvia, Erza still, you know, is still like, hey, she still has feelings for Jalal, but they didn't really pair up. But, you know, everybody getting a nice, good moment. Wendy kind of getting older and growing up, even though she still looked the same. But, you know, seeing her from the shy little girl when we first met her in that village to she's performing on stage. It wanted to show development for a lot of the characters. Again, some of them, Natsu, he could have been a greatly developed character. I mean, missed opportunity after he took that L to Gildarts, but I think he wanted, at the very least, to show some type of growth for a lot of these characters. And, you know, they went through a lot in the final arc. Erza finding who her mother really is, and then having to basically be partially responsible for the death of her own mother. Carnage as hell, especially when Acnologia showed up and stomped out Erza's mother right in front of her. That was freaking sick. But as a whole, I'm also glad that this series had a faithful adaptation, because it gives me hope that other series in the future can have a, you know, full adaptation from start to finish. A lot of shonen anime in the past, they, you know, kind of cut short. Rurouni Kenshin, a whole bunch of different anime, never really complete the entirety of the story. With this one having all 328 episodes adapting the entirety of the manga, it gives me faith that other series in the future won't have to get axed early on. And the way Fairy Tail handled it through and through, I think even the anime studio did their best for what they had. You know what I'm saying? The source material had problems, but man, it's just something about the Fairy Tail anime that I'm really gonna miss. I'm gonna miss these characters a lot. Now, we still have the manga. As of the recording of this video, we got the 100 Years Quest manga, which basically is a straight up direct sequel. So if you're a Fairy Tail fan and you want more, you go check out the manga. It actually continues from the very last visual we get where Natsu and them are going off on that 100-year quest. The manga just straight up goes from there. So if you want more Fairy Tail, you got that, but I don't think it'll ever be the same, even if we get a Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest anime, which I'm doubtful on that. I don't know if they'll actually go through with that. Maybe it's just me, but I don't see them, especially with the way they drummed up this whole ending. I don't think they'll do it, but if they did, I still wouldn't feel like the exact same feeling I got with Fairy Tail. I feel as though this is, if you really want to stop Fairy Tail, this would be a good point to just kind of say, alright, I'm done, I'm walking away. I mean, again, I would argue that the Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest manga is just 10 times better written than a lot of Fairy Tail, but it's also like, yo, if you really didn't like Fairy Tail but you wanted to finish it, probably just stop right there. But I'm curious, a lot of questions. For starters, favorite moments in Fairy Tail. There was a lot. I mean, the Arashon 6, Tenro up until the end, well, up until they did the time skip thing, but Tenro, the very beginning of Acnologia, seeing how Gildarts came back to the guild all messed up because of Acnologia. There was just so many moments, you know, even when we did the other time skip and Natsu came back with all that hair. Prior to the final arc with Alvarez, I want to say Tartarus was a really dope arc too, you know, again, a lot of problems, but like when Igneel showed up and fought against Acnologia, so many great moments. Openings, probably opening 1 will still be my favorite of all time, and I really love that Just Believe in Myself. That was fire as well. And for what it's worth, Fairy Tail, 328 episodes worth of pain but enjoyment at the same time, and I'm gonna miss this cast of characters. Seeing them animated, it was an adventure. And your overall thoughts, final thoughts. Honestly, I don't see us ever talking about anything Fairy Tail anime related again, and if we do, it would probably be in the very distant future if they do the 100 Years Quest manga into an anime. But yeah, if you have any final say on the Fairy Tail anime, now's the time to drop them in the comments, man. It was a journey, you know. Happy, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, Erza, Gajeel, Loxus. There's so many characters, and that was a great callback as well at the end where they just showed every single Fairy Tail character, even from the Edalos characters, all of them. It was just like, yeah, one last glance at this world before they wrap it up and send it off in style. But that's all I have for this final video on Fairy Tail. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, hit that bell to get all notifications, and if you want to follow any of my other social media, links of course in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always people, have an awesome day, and remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and see you later, Fairy Tail, until we meet again.
Enjoy the next ride, but I was the best ride. But I hope you know that